All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to unpack the incredible story behind a group of medicines you might actually have in your own cabinet right now. It's a fantastic tale of brilliant science, huge medical breakthroughs, and the non-stop evolution of pharmacology. And it all centers on a little pill designed to do one thing: tackle stomach acid. So let's just start with the most impressive fact right out of the gate. In 1988, Sir James Black wins the Nobel Prize. And he didn't win it for some super obscure discovery. He won it for his work creating a drug called Cimetidine, which millions of people knew by its brand name, Tagamet. And that, of course, raises the big question. A Nobel Prize for a stomach pill. Really? What on earth was so special about this one drug that it deserved the absolute highest honor in science? Well, that's exactly what we're going to find out. To answer that question, we have to start at the beginning. So let's meet the star of our show, Cimetidine. You see, the reason Cimetidine was so revolutionary is that it was a total triumph of what we call rational drug design. This wasn't some lucky accident in a lab. No way. Scientists, led by Sir James Black, specifically designed a molecule to block a very particular process in the body. They knew the problem, they identified the molecular target, and then they literally built the solution from the ground up. This approach completely changed how new medicines were developed. So how did it actually work? To understand that, we need to take a quick peek inside the stomach's own little acid factory. Okay, the official term here is H2 receptor antagonist. I know, it sounds super complicated, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. It's a blocker. It's designed to find a very specific switch on the cells that line your stomach and just stop that switch from being turned on. No switch, no signal, less acid. Simple as that. And the best way to picture this is with the classic lock and key analogy. So, imagine the cells in your stomach have a little lock on them. That's the H2 receptor, our acid switch. Now, your body has a chemical called histamine that acts as the key. When histamine pops into that lock and turns, it tells the cell, hey, pump out some acid. So what does an H2 blocker like Cimetidine do? Well, it acts like a fake key. It's perfectly shaped to fit right into that keyhole, but it doesn't turn. It just sits there, plugging up the works. So when the real key, histamine, comes along, it can't get in. The switch can't be flipped, and the cell never gets the signal to make acid. It's just elegantly simple and absolutely brilliant. Cimetidine was the pioneer, for sure. But like any great invention, it was really just the beginning. It completely paved the way for an entire family of similar, but, much improved drugs. And what's really fascinating is just how fast science improved on that original idea. So if we say Cimetidine is our baseline with a potency of 1, along come ranitidine and nizatidine, which are already 4 to 10 times more potent. And just look at the dose. You need less than half the amount for a similar effect. But then you get famotidine, which is a staggering 20 to 50 times more potent than the original. That is a massive, massive leap in just a few years. This chart just shows that jump perfectly. If cimetidine is our starting block, ranitidine is a huge step up, but famotidine is playing in a completely different league. It's a perfect illustration of that incredible drive in medicine to not just find a solution, but to keep refining it, making it more powerful and more efficient with every new generation. Now, this wasn't just some academic exercise in making pills stronger. This new class of drugs had a massive, real-world impact on treating some really common and often very serious conditions. So H2 blockers became the go-to treatment for a whole bunch of things. First up, peptic ulcer disease. Those are the painful sores that can form in your stomach lining. Then there's GERD, which most of us know as chronic acid reflux. And they were even used for general indigestion. I mean, before these drugs came along, really bad ulcers often meant you were facing major surgery. So these pills were literally life-changing. But it's important to remember that medicine is always moving forward. For a lot of these conditions today, H2 blockers have been largely replaced by an even more effective class of drugs called proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs. But here's where our story takes a bit of a turn. Because while cimetidine was a hero, it wasn't exactly a perfect one. As we used it more and more, some complications popped up that paved the way for its successors to take over the spotlight. Now, let's be super clear here. On the whole, H2 antagonists are considered extremely safe drugs. But for a small number of people, over 3%, they could cause side effects like headaches, fatigue, or diarrhea. Annoying for sure, but relatively minor. It was the more unique side effects of cimetidine itself that really became the issue. Yeah, it turned out that cimetidine, and only cimetidine, had some pretty unusual hormonal effects. It could kind of mess with testosterone and also bum up a hormone called prolactin. So with long-term, high-dose use, this could sometimes lead to impotence, or gynecomastia. That's the development of breast tissue in men. In women, it could cause things like galactorrhea, which is producing milk when you're not supposed to, or amenorrhea, which is the loss of a menstrual period. And here's the crucial part. The newer H2 blockers, like famotidine, didn't have these side effects. They were just as good at blocking acid, but without all the hormonal baggage. So naturally, they quickly became the preferred choice. So after all that, let's zoom out and pull it all together. What are the key lessons from this incredible story about H2 blockers? So what's the big takeaway from all this? First, a seemingly simple stomach pill, cimetidine, was actually the product of Nobel Prize-winning science that literally changed how we design drugs. Second, it works using that really clever lock-and-key mechanism to shut down the stomach's acid switch. Third, science never ever stands still. Newer drugs like famotidine came along that were way more powerful and a lot safer. And finally, this whole story is just a perfect example of how medicine is always progressing. What's revolutionary today might just be a stepping stone for tomorrow. And that kind of leaves us with a final, big picture thought. Cimetidine's journey from miracle drug to basically a museum piece is such a powerful lesson. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What celebrated breakthrough medicine that we rely on today, what pill or treatment might we look back on in 30 years and just see it as another step on the path to something even better? Something to think about.